Alright, so the first step we're going to do is I'm going to give you this reed here. Obviously it's a clarinet reed. You can just take it out and as I'm sure you've seen clarinetists do over the years, just put that in your mouth and get it wet. It will not taste all that pleasant, but you'll get used to it eventually. But you have to have the reed wet so that you can play it properly. Alright, the next step is actually assembling the clarinet. And so, as you can see, we have a couple of components here. It's pretty obvious which pieces are which, but to start, we'll want to attach the main two pieces of the body together. And so go ahead and pull those out. And okay, the bottom of it's actually the opposite of that. And when you're assembling it, first of all, the cork is fairly tough, so it takes a little bit of effort to get it together.
Push or twist?
Kind of a combination of pushing and twisting. You want these keys here to
all line up.
Yeah, all the keys will need to line up. So, oh, and when you're doing that, you want to try to hold the keys down. As you can see, some of these parts kind of interlock, and so if you're being really reckless, you can damage it a little bit, but I don't think you did anything problematic.
Like it's sorted together.
Alright, now take the bottom. Got your bell. Yep, and obviously that just...
Does it need to be aligned a particular way?
Nope, doesn't have to be aligned. Some clarinetists are particular about that, as
I'm going to be
Waters told
particular
us.
about it.
Okay, if you want to try to line it up with that one, more power to you.
Get out there.
Yeah, if you
I
have,
want to go on there.
if you have a, it's just, I haven't used cork grease in a while.
That would do it.
Let me help you a little bit. I usually just push it against my stomach. It's probably not the best technique, but
whatever. We got it.
Works for me. All right. Next, you can choose either one of those two. Doesn't particularly
they seem
matter.
Exactly the same.
Yeah, I think they might be, but
whatever.
okay.
We'll pick this
And
one.
then obviously that'll just go into there, and then you have to
the right
push
way.
that.
I see.
Yep. Okay. So now we've got that. See, this next step is actually putting the mouthpiece onto the instrument, but before we get to that, I'm just going to take this and set it over here for now, and we're going to work on assembling the mouthpiece and then blowing a note, an open note, on to the mouthpiece. So, here's your mouthpiece. Obviously you have your ligature, and you've got your reed, and so you want to lay the reed flat onto the mouthpiece.
Which way flat? This way flat?
No, the other way. You want the
this way.
You want the completely flat part to be
This way.
no.
I'm missing entirely.
You want the completely flat part to be
okay.
on the mouthpiece itself. You may want to, after I give you the mouthpiece, you may need to wet the reed a little bit more. But so you can see. Then you take your ligature, and I've got it pretty loose right now. So once you're ready, you can just stick the reed on there like that, and then you want your ligature will go on kind of like this, and so you can see that where the mouthpiece kind of slopes off here at this point, that's where the ligature will meet. And so then you just tighten those screws, and then you'll be set. Enough to hold it in place. So I don't think, honestly, you can't really get them too tight unless you get them to the point where you can't turn them the other way. So
that seems fairly good.
Alright, so now as far as actual embouchure, this is where things start to get a little bit more complex.
I feel like I'm back in 6th grade.
Yeah. The top of your mouth is going to be in sort of an O shape. If you're just saying O or singing O. So you're going to have that rounded, and then your teeth are going to go on the top of the mouthpiece.
Like her?
No, you've got it upside down. Sorry.
Right.
Okay, so you've got it like that, and then your teeth will go on the top. The top of your mouth is going to be kind of an O shape. The corners of your mouth are going to be pulled back. On the bottom, your lip is going to be over your teeth, like that. And so you're kind of stretching, you're pulling the chin muscles down and stretching it out. And so you've got the bottom, the reed will be touching your lip, actually, and your lip will be over your teeth.
I basically lose entirely.
Your lip is going to be over your teeth. So like when you put your lip back there. Yeah, like that. Okay, and so you're going to want to take about half of the mouth, like halfway to there. You're going to want to take half of that into your mouth. And so then you put your teeth on the top, put your lips back, and then you just tighten the corners. You got to have it all tight, and then just kind of blow.
Well, I got something.
You're getting something. Keep trying that. There, okay, so you can hear there's a little bit of air escaping, so you want to keep everything really tight, but you got a noise going there. You have the teeth on the top. Wet the reed a little bit more, and I mean it's a little bit difficult to get the sound initially. Some mouthpieces are on the other woodwinds, like the saxophone's considerably easier, but alright, I'll try and demonstrate quick, see if I can remember how to play this thing,
That would be a good
and
start.
see if I can kind of demonstrate what you're going for. Okay, so that's the sound you're going for. Yeah, it's kind of like a fire whistle sort of thing going. So just, you want your teeth on the top, you want your corners pulled back, think about pulling your chin muscles down. Taking a little bit more mouthpiece, I think, might be good. There it is!
Hey,
There, that's great. Okay, and you're right on pitch. So that is our open C. So that is the first step in the process of actually playing the clarinet. Now,
It only took like 7 minutes.
yeah, it only took a while. So, all right. So now we're going to talk about hand placement on the clarinet and where you want to hold it. Okay, so I'm just going to demonstrate first, and then you can hold it. But you're going to want your right thumb is going to be here. This is really the only finger on the clarinet that doesn't do a whole lot. It's mainly there for support. So some notes you're pretty much going to have all the pressure is resting almost on that thumb, and so it's important to keep that there. So right thumb there. Your left thumb is going to go on this key back here. And then in any of these metal keys are going to have a finger on them. And all the holes are going to be covered. And then your pinkies will just kind of fall to where they can press any of these 3 keys. And we're not going to have to worry about these 3 keys, but so right thumb under there, left thumb on that back hole.
This one.
Yes, okay.
And
then your fingers
figure it out.
fall. And there you have it. That is where you want to hold it. The difficulty that you'll run into is just being able to hold it without depressing the keys when you're playing other ones, and so it takes a while. Also, we don't have the mouthpiece in, but it's going to be a pretty sharp angle. It's almost going to be pointed directly down. Okay, so now you can put the mouthpiece on. That's a somewhat difficult process.
This way?
Yeah, you're going to want the mouthpiece to face,
No.
yeah, like that. Okay, so doing good? Yep.
More or less.
Just get that on there. You got to be a little bit careful because obviously you don't want to break the reed. Typically when I'm assembling it, I put the reed on last, but obviously since we were playing on the open mouthpiece, that doesn't work.
Sort of right.
Okay, let me just check, make sure you've got everything aligned on it properly here. Alright, it's looking good. So, remembering what we did just a minute ago, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to hold it, so back to the proper position, got that finger on the back, got those fingers there, okay. Now if you don't depress any notes whatsoever, this is going to sound a G. Well, it's actually a clarinet G, so I believe it's going to be actually a concert F. Alright, move that, your angle is a little bit sharp. But yes, that's the idea. Still, it's still a little bit too far out, but that's a decent beginning clarinet sound. So you're learning pretty quickly. Okay, and so before we learn a couple of more notes, let's just talk about tonguing versus slurring. Tonguing is similar to what you would have learned growing up playing trombone. Only the tip of your tongue is going to touch the tip of the reed. So why don't you just play an open G and try tonguing a couple quarter notes or something? All right, make
Sort
sure
of.
you're keeping your fingers in the proper positions because we're going to need those in a minute.
Ah, amateur.
Alright, that sounded pretty good. Alright, so now that we've got those, we're going to learn just a couple of notes and then our lesson will pretty much be over.
Who's ass?
Alright, so the first
That was
note we're going to
obviously G.
learn, that was a G. Next note we're going to learn will be an E. And an E is this first key, and you'll also have to have the back key down. So it's just your thumb and your first finger. So let's see if we can play an E. This should be a concert F sharp, I believe. No, concert D, sorry. You had it just a minute ago, I think. Or maybe I'm confusing myself.
I don't know. I mean, I've got these two.
Do you have any other keys down?
I do not think so.
Okay. Just try that
Maybe I
again.
did
So
it by
this
accident.
this should be an E. Okay.
Ah!
A lot of that squeak that's happening is
Give me a second.
yeah, you can go ahead.
I'm gonna switch this to not obnoxious.
Alright, so the two main reasons I think why you may be getting squeaks are that tends to happen when you're not getting all the holes completely covered that you need to cover. You'll run into squeaks, and also what you're doing is pretty much holding the instrument out like this, and so that works well for like a saxophone entering at that angle. But the clarinet, you got to keep it really close to your body, and so makes it a little bit more awkward. But I think that will help a little bit with some of those issues. Make sure you have the. Alright, so that's the G and the E. And to continue on downward, we're going to add onto that a D and a C. So, as you might have guessed, a D is just those two fingers with the thumb. So why don't we try a D? Keep that angle. Keep your head up, though. You got to keep the head up. Alright, so that's a D.
More or less.
Yeah, one thing, if you were going to practice more, one thing I would tell you is that it's helpful to look in a mirror like that one we've got over there, because you can't always tell where your fingers are, but if you look in the mirror, that can help you, because this might be the first note where we really run into problems. But okay, our last note is a C, and that will be all three fingers on the left hand and the thumb. So why don't we try a C?
So this.
Yes. No, all three fingers. Yeah, like that. Alright. So that is the notes that we need to learn. We're just going to practice going G, E, D, C. The first thing we're going to do is slurring it. And so, obviously, when you're slurring,
You don't have the tongue.
you don't have the tongue whatsoever. So G, remember, is completely open. Then E is thumb and first finger. D will be thumb and the first two fingers. And C will be thumb and the first three fingers. Alright, so whenever you're ready.
I've got everything in the right spot, right?
Yeah. Well,
I feel like something's off. Maybe it's just me.
I think you've got everything right, yeah.
Okay. I think it's just me.
Okay.
Alright, so what was
G
the
is
first one?
G is
G was just the back one. Wait,
it's
no,
actually
D was
it's-
everything.
no, G is completely open. G is nothing. Alright, good. So next thing we want to do is we want to add the tongue to that. As we talked about earlier, tonguing, just tip of the tongue, tip of the reed.
Ah.
You got onto that key. Alright, so yeah, it makes you a little bit lightheaded. Just a few things I would tell you if you were continuing on. Obviously, this is pretty much, we've reached the conclusion of our short lesson, but a few things I would tell you is just keep on working on getting that angle back in. You're
First
still
you
playing.
7 years of trombone.
Yeah, and trombone will do that to you, that is true. Make sure you're getting the holes completely covered with the fingers, and just work on tightening up that embouchure, because I can still hear a little bit of air escaping. But overall, that's great, and that brings us to the conclusion of our lesson.
I made it to 6th grade band.